Although armed standoffs with the police are quite rare, they require decisive and forceful action, breaching, clearing, and neutralizing the threat, all critical components of any police assault. Hello and welcome! In this video, we dive into the strategy, mechanics, and important takeaways regarding police assaults in Payday 2. Police assaults are often the most intense portions of any heist, occurring once law enforcement has been made aware of your presence, and will occur in both stealth and loud. Once the alarm has been sounded, police will perform 4 tasks in a cyclical format: recon, reinforce, assault, and hide cloakers. Before we talk about the individual phases, it's important to understand 2 underlying mechanics that determine the length and difficulty of assault waves. The first, being known as diff, not to be confused with heist difficulty, raises dynamically based on the heist. It starts at 0% and increases to 50% shortly after the alarm has been sounded. Once the first assault wave hits, it will typically be at 75%, increasing and remaining at 100% once the second assault wave hits. Changes in difficulty can be usually heard from Bane, suggesting tougher units are inbound. Diff level will determine the amount of police that spawn during an assault wave and how many can simultaneously be spawned in. However, this will be covered later when we discuss the assault itself. The next mechanic is known as drama, and is a general measure of how intense the assault is. It will increase as the police begin to take control of the situation. Like diff, it will start off at 0% and can increase to 100%. Unlike diff, however, it decays at a constant rate of 3.33% per second. Increases in drama will occur when police down or tase a criminal, take a criminal into custody, or deal damage to a criminal. Above 95% drama, the game can skip build and anticipation subphases, which will be covered later. Below 25%, the assault will go from fade to regroup, and below 10%, the assault will skip regroup altogether. The first major phase, recon, will bring in first responders, typically patrol officers, followed by a limited amount of lighter SWAT units. Diff will be raised above 0% after a delay of 30 seconds to 2 minutes, in which no assault waves can occur. Recon will only occur if there are bagged loot items or civilians spawned in the field of play, whether they be cable tied or not. These units will retire once the assault wave begins, ignoring players and objectives that they are not currently engaged with. The next major phase is reinforcement, in which police assemble an assault force at specified reinforcement locations that are not fully manned. If a location has too many units, they retire the largest group of units at the location. Typically, these locations are strategically in inconvenient places, forcing you to deal with said enemies when completing objectives. The next and most critical phase is the actual assault phase. In this phase, police units can and will continue to spawn from a spawn pool that is determined by the number of players and bots in full control, diff, and heist difficulty. In addition, there is also a limit on the amount of police that can be spawned in total, which also depends on the previously mentioned factors. Charts 1A and 1B display the amount of police that can be in play and the total spawn pool for an assault wave respectively. It's important to note that scripted enemies, such as the bulldozer in the control room and the Hoxton breakout heist, day 1, do not count towards any hard limits on police spawns. Spawn pools are also adjusted every 2 seconds to account for any changes, meaning difficulty can change as players shift in and out of custody. Assault phases themselves also have 5 subphases: anticipation, build, sustain, fade, and regroup. Anticipation lasts 30 seconds with no hostages, 60 seconds with at least 1 hostage on normal through overkill, and 40 seconds with at least 1 hostage on mayhem and above. During this phase, the assault force will not attempt to engage, and will pull back if players make contact with them, and they will also not use smoke or flashbang grenades. Build lasts 35 seconds and functions identical to sustain. However, it will be skipped with drama level above 95%. Sustain will last anywhere from 40 seconds to 208 seconds, depending on the diff level and the number of players, seen on chart 2A. During this phase, and build, the use of flashbangs and smoke grenades is permitted. Fade lasts a minimum of 5 seconds with no enemy spawns allowed. It will end when these 2 conditions are met. Fade has lasted 355 seconds, or there are less than 7 enemies alive and not retiring, and drama level is below 25%. Once this has been met, the closest crew member to you will signal the police retreating. The assault will then stop once there are less than 4 enemies and the drama is still below 25%. Regroup is the final subphase of an assault, but will end if drama is below 10%. No enemies will spawn and all assault groups will retire. Trading hostages cannot be done after the anticipation subphase, but is enabled once more once regroup subphase ends. Once the assault ends, recon units will begin entering the field, and a new assault will commence after a delay that will again depend on diff level and the heist difficulty seen on chart 2B. During the assault, cloakers can spawn in 2 methods, as part of the assault force or as part of hiding cloakers. Cloakers that spawn during the assault will behave more aggressively, not seeking cover behind doors or under cars. Hiding cloakers will, on the other hand, seek said cover in an attempt to ambush players. Interestingly enough, despite Bane constantly reprimanding you and warning of increased police aggression, killing civilians will not affect diff or drama, nor will it cause increased police spawn. The only exception being on Ukrainian Job and Jewelry Store, which will just increase the number of spawned snipers. Like normal police units, special units have a limited spawn pool as well, as seen on Table 3A. As previously stated, these numbers are not at all affected by scripted enemy spawns. Dominated enemies of the assault wave still count towards the limit for simultaneous enemies. However, they will be given the order to retire when the assault wave ends. If you have 7 enemies dominated, Fade can only end after the 355-second timer counts down, giving you almost 6 minutes of limited contact with the police. Given that Fade never ends if drama stays above 25%, enemies that spawned during the reinforce phase can be used to continually keep drama up. A player with Armorer and an ICTV can repeatedly get hit by a sniper with no other enemies alive, meaning the current assault wave will never end, allowing the other 3 players to carry on completing objectives. Given the large spawn pools for assault waves and the ability for new units to be replenished every 2 seconds after being killed, it's often best to stall enemies for as long as possible, essentially running out the assault clock in your favor. Thank you very much for watching. Join us next time when we take a look at team composition. Until then, happy hunting.